enough Xander Chris talk. Let's talk about Derek Graham, offensive lineman. We haven't talked about a ton of offensive linemen in the portal, and I only wanted to bring this up because it's a little personal. He comes from Troy, 6'4", 305. He's okay. He's a pretty decent football player, and I got some questions on air the other day that were along the lines, like why isn't A&M going after surefire starters, right? And here's your answer. Derek Graham is almost as good as it gets in the portal, and he is not probably a starting caliber tackle in the SEC. He probably isn't. He'll compete for sure. He'll be nice depth. He can play guard. He can play tackle. I like him a lot. I like him a ton. And you know what, too? Like, he's got more experience than Chase Pasantis, and Chase Pasantis really struggled last year at tackle. Really struggled. You know, does A&M know what they're going to do at right guard necessarily? I think they have an idea, right? But what if all of a sudden Mark DeBoer is playing center and, instead of Bryce Foster, then who are you sliding in at guard right next to Nabo? You got Cam Dewberry on one side. Who's going to be on the other side, right? Is it going to be Derek Graham? I don't know. He'll definitely have his chance to compete for sure. I like that he was on Troy. I think Troy is one of the more physical teams in the Sun Belt. So I think those practices, you know, if there were any team that was going to get you ready to play in the SEC in the Sun Belt, it would probably be Troy, practicing at Troy every single day against the defensive line and the defensive front. So this is a good get. This is a good get for Texas A&M. I don't know what your thoughts are, but this is a good get.
Yeah, like you mentioned, like it is offensive tackle, it's offensive line. Guy giving a guy with experience and positional flexibility is good. Like that is good. That is good. A guy that you believe in has some tools to play pretty well. All the other good stuff. Yeah, it's not like Caden Proctor and those guys grow on trees. We've done Lance Hurd, another guy. Like those guys are one in a million. Those guys are not quite typical portal entrants for especially most of the country. And obviously A&M believes in themselves to acquire talent just about anybody they want to, but those guys were special circumstances that happened and whatnot. Derek Graham's a guy that's played a bunch of different positions on the line. In 2022, he was actually the sixth lineman for Troy in run blocking situations. So they moved him around, which is good. That flexibility that he has, and that showed off his athleticism and being able to do some good things there. Yeah, like you mentioned, O-line has been a need at A&M. And I think part of it just comes down to better coaching. And that sounds like they're going to get it because Steve Adazio was not a good coach, right? Developmenting, right? It sounds like that O-line took a step back just about every year he was there. And obviously injuries didn't help his case, and I get that. But regardless, though, this is a fine take for A&M. I think this is one of many needs they had this offseason, and him and a couple other guys they filled it with. And yet you're not going to get an all SEC guy to transfer to A&M. Okay, that's not going to happen anywhere, right? For the most part, like you have to go find these diamond in the roughs, these guys that you believe in their traits and their tools and experience. And with your coaching, your strength and conditioning, your scheme, they can thrive in. And that's what I think the staff did and identified with Derek Graham.
Yeah, and Adam Cushing has done more with less. Believe me, he has done more with less. So we'll see what their offensive line staff can do over there. What Colin Klein's going to be able to do with Derek Graham. It'll be interesting. I'm excited to see. There's going to be a ton of competition on the offensive line next year, and I love that. And Derek Graham's going to add to that, so that's great.